Hi friends and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, hello. My name's George Agamba and I'm a UK music producer. Welcome back to the brand new short series taking you through the very basics of recording and producing. The very basics. Even if you've never dived into the wonderful world of audio production before, by the end of this series you should feel confident in recording and producing your first ever song. So make sure you hit the subscribe button and notification bell to follow the series along. And things will never be the same when I hear your name since you kissed me in the rain. In the last video, we began to create our song by adding in a drum track. Today we're going to build on that and continue creating our song by adding in a bass line. We're going to be having a look at how to create a MIDI bass line, how to record a bass line, how to write the melodic content, and how to write the rhythmic content. To begin to add in a bass line using a MIDI instrument, we need to insert a software instrument track, and then we can choose a bass sound from the instrument library. One of my favourites to use is the Liverpool bass. It sounds so punchy and bassy, so really helps a bass line cut through. Like when we're creating a MIDI drum track, we can play in a bass line using a MIDI controller, or go into the editor window and use the brush tool to create notes on the piano grid. So here's an example of a simple MIDI bass line. So in a previous video, we did discuss how to record a bass instrument. Today I'm going to be using a Focusrite interface, which has a special input which allows me to plug the bass straight into it without needing to go through a DI box or mic up an amp. So for today, that's what I'm going to do. So here I'm just playing in a simple bass line into an audio track that I've got in my project. Here's the bass line. As you can hear, it sounds very clean and unaffected. If we go into the plugins chain, Amps and Pedals, Bass Amp Designer, you will see a bass amp emulator pop up. Then you can use this drop-down menu and choose between several different sounding bass amps, modelled off of different classic amplifiers. So I've put my clean recording through this amp emulation, and this is how it sounds. It is quite hard to believe that this bass line wasn't recorded via miking up an amp. It creates a really great sound, and there's just so much we can do with it and so many possibilities. A good bassline melody is really important. It can take a song from being mediocre to being really great and catchy, and so we want our melody to be as good as it can be. Now, there are times where I don't have any inspiration or any ideas for how I want the bass line to sound. And in times like these, I follow a simple system, or workflow if you will, which I'm going to share with you now, as it really helps me. In this project, I've also added in a simple drum track, just so that we can play the bass line along to it and hear the two elements together. First, I start by putting in the root note of the chords of the song. This chord progression is C, A minor, F, G. And so I'm going to write a C, A, F and G in the bass line like so. Next, to add a bit of interest, I'm going to add some transition notes. And these will help me get between the root notes that I've already written. All I have to do is make sure that these transition notes are still in the key of the song. And in this case, that's in the key of C. I'm going to put a B in between the C and the A G in between the A and the F, and then perhaps an A in between the F and the G, and a B in between the G and the C. Now let's have a listen to how that has changed the sound. It's made it a lot quicker moving and more interesting. Then, especially when I'm writing pop bass lines, I like to add some octave leaps. This just makes the music sound more jumpy and energetic, and personally I think it gives the music a really positive and funky vibe. I'm simply going to add in a few octave leaps of the root note before we get to the transition notes, like so. Here's what it sounds like. As you can hear, it's a very simple but energetic trick that has really brought the bass line to life. The rhythmic content of the bass line is also really important. It's what will give it the most character. Now, there are lots of different rhythms and different techniques you can use, but a surefire way to make sure that the rhythm of your bass line will always work is to keep the line on beat. Here's the bass line. You can see that each of the notes are on the whole beat and the root note changes as the chord changes. This is what it sounds like. It does work and is a completely acceptable bass line, but we can make it a little bit more complex. We do this by adding syncopation. So we want to add some dotted rhythms which will give our bass line a lot more energy. Here's the difference. It isn't as completely uniform as the first, but the syncopation has added a lot of fun to the bass line. So that's how to create a bass line. Next time we're going to be looking at beginning to build the body of our song by adding extra instruments in, such as synths. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know if you have any questions or thoughts down in the comments. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and notification bell, and I will see you again very soon.